Oh, well, just so I say it in case I hadn't said it enough. A lot of this about that 50 base points locally, you'll see Tesla up 5%, some Micron stuff. You get a bunch of them. I know there was a really good one about coming down. I was just talking about, well, it's two-thirds the heat equation, pulling it down on the threads here because it's all entangled, right? One affects, so therefore the other ones definitely will affect, but it's not necessarily like we're throwing signals on a Smith chart through satellites at each other on line of sight, are we? It's a different, it's same thing, different. But heat equation here. I don't want that. Heat equation. Usually, I argue it would go to something like 3B1B for his work on some of the ontology and deep learning. It knows the difference in an apple paradox and the Raven paradox. And so, therefore, it can do what it does. Presentation wise, you get the whole market moving around and you say, all right.
Welcome to Maison Perrier. Open the doors to a new level of sparkling taste.
Well, a pedantic mathematician might...
Start back at the beginning. There would be more like a monopole, dipole, Big Bang type of quasi-black hole thing.
We last left off studying the...
Anyways, you've seen this before. Probably seen a lot. There's your day-night cycle. You worked at the end of the day. Right there at the end, it capped off. Usually come in the morning and stuff happens. May not be perfect to this idea, but there's a general bell curve on what does day-night, summer, winter. If I got to go get my black body books and stuff like that out for you, I'd be happy to show you. It's also Bernoulli. It's a P-on situation at times when you get the registered bait to height under known X to Y distances or X to Y, Y to X functions. Math does that kind of stuff. Their wavelets, their frequencies, and their wave functions all tied up together in a triple body problem of up, and down particles. Up, and, well, what is down? Up 45. All this. Depending on which way it's coming at you on the dot plot, because there's different formings of a... it's not a time crystal, it's a measurement. Time crystal is just some of the theses and stuff they try to throw at it to say I Excel'd out the system. Let's see if I can find it here. And spreadsheeted it. And from that, you do certain algorithms with it. So this is all set theory, right? This is all set theory, A, bracketed models down, and as you open that up, it works the same way as your Godot or your Linux system on being able to chessboard, which is another animal I got inside of here in case you're wondering. I just don't do it much, and again, it takes me a long time to fight 79 for Hello World with this gear, so plus just against the wall instead of a teacher that knows how the C equation should work on KT, right? You get it, you do this version of a test, sigma n equals 0 or n equals 1 because you know, and then you lay it down. That's your first day in the stone mill being a catcher, your first day in the manager of the stone mill, whether you ever were a catcher or not, still correlates to gain mass, put it into the system and do accordingly. Here again, you're going to line them up, and then you can alphabetical them, do stuff with them, find common ranges where they move delta, rate of change, in such appropriate ways that it's useful for you, but there's no perfect algorithm. There's only a combination of it moving 3 mean in the situation. Give me an example of what that 3 mean might look like on a black body problem for intensities and ping signals. Something like this. It's a little forward, a little back. This doesn't go to it, but I know the name, so I would use a lot of other methodologies instead of chord into this one system to be able to produce whatever line gap. And we're talking about processor, we're talking about energy, we're talking about heat, things that you wouldn't necessarily expect on a black body problem, Maxwell, Raylight, and genes to correlate why a population does things. Well, what does the population do as its own intensity signals that said, well, higher rooted plants, all plants, the black body problem, par rating is where they live, so it's a type of one of those diagrams with an Emerson effect. It says, well, I need green light, or excuse me, blue light red light and green light or yellow light, something inside of there I think is what it is, because ultraviolet and then radio waves down there might be the index of what I need. Why? Because it moved a battery, microwaves, stuff like that. Means I have to put a shield over it so I get out of all that light, or it doesn't make enough heat or whatever reason that I just get those microwaves, and then I get an LED light out of it that does these things. Don't need it to be any, it's a combination of both. I lose some things in the mix because homogenization of any one of these plants out there that serves to a certain index of those models can be 3 mean. Okay. Well, it is. Here's just the tippity tops of her. Well, market cap, given a price of stock, is your general Standards and Poor's algorithm that would produce something like this, but it doesn't produce it in one shot unless I've designed it to produce that shot in some way. Here are all those charts. You could arbitrarily pull the spectrum there, I guess, to some way manufacture that it stays on the farm, I guess is a good way to apply that. But you got a lot of, the logic gates of just wire, copper, any kind of resistor, transistor, where and when that key's inside of there. Maybe it's got to be a high number, or because it, that I'm using as a blocker, however the ones and zeros do. I know I'm not necessarily in the diode factory or resistor, capacitor, rectifiers, and a bunch of diodes or capacitors together. It really serves to why Denzel Washington moving to Florida next week in terms of what boats could do certain training skills, under what position could actually serve that for communications, or consumer discretionaries, or whatever else we got down there, all of them. And that's going to produce some ranges, specifically the number of them in that sector, the average for what it does by taking all the prices and then averaging them, and then saying all together as a group they would make this much. Not necessarily that average, because you divide that number by this and as an average, or you multiply this number times this, right? And you're not going to get this number. Why? Because there might be some very strong outliers on the high side of the number, and there might be some very low end numbers, penny stocks and things like that within the system. There locally would be our local Tomb World for corn growing in Tops grocery store, and any local Walmarts or things like that. But how many distributors do we have? Do we have to be neighborly with what farmland, tooth to tail, as far as the resources and personnel that we have here? Machines aside, we don't get paid. Machines don't get paid for their steam. You can beat them, recycle them, throw them in the wood chipper, and it's not going to beat back to you. But as long as there's a 36 or any type of 90-year-old function on this, with what populations are on the black body problem already, and not going to some of this stuff, you got to pay attention to it. I mean, you're going to get in town. I got to use a better tooth-to-tail military mission on a secondary protocol of Lego, Rogel Dawn, second bounding of that place, usually when I'm doing my books, right? Somewhere's in here, there's going to be me telling you, hey, that state trooper's got to have or some 9mm qualifications, because they're getting all the free time to do so. So let's make sure for a region and shit like that, we're not letting the fly fishermen not have these types of things on our system, of what we're bringing to the table on it. And